Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another one in our series of In My Experience interviews, hosted very ably by Shreya Agarwal, as usual, our great friend and colleague. And today we're introducing you to a brand that I hadn't heard of previously, but I think is absolutely fascinating. The founder is Devina Dalmia, and the brand is Jahann. And we're going to learn all about her journey, the products that she's producing, and her inspiration around that. So, good morning, Devina. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, we're all doing well. So thanks very much for being with us. I'm going to pass over to Shreya, who's our quiz master for the session, and I'm just going to jump in. But you'll see me writing lots of notes because I'm known for making lots of notes during an interview. So over to Shreya.
Thanks, Helen. Thank you for a lovely introduction as always. And thank you, Devina, for very kindly accepting my invite and joining us for this conversation series. So, a lot of people haven't heard about bespoke luxury packaging, right? So, why don't we start with you telling us your journey towards creating this brand?
So I created this brand that does bespoke packaging, and we export all over the world. And the reason I started it, honestly, Shreya, was because I didn't find any in the market. And I made a fantastic trip to Japan, not knowing how they package stuff. And when I got there, I was drooling. I didn't want the things inside. I just wanted the boxes. I just wanted the wrapping paper. I just wanted how they've done it and how their techniques and every minor detail. And I said, when I came back, I was devastated because there wasn't anything like that. And then that's when I said, if this doesn't really exist, there is a space, there is a gap in the market, and why don't I fill it? And so I think I was a first mover in this sort of area in India, and at that time, people would of course import stuff and things like that, but importing means that there's a lot of headache when you have to make it bespoke, when you have to explain to somebody your sensibility as a country, as a people, as a design aesthetic. And for an Indian company to be able to do something homegrown was something that I think made great strides in this space, and that's how Jahann was started. It was one factory shed, two workers, one manager, and myself. And lo and behold, in the middle of a sweltering summer, we were sitting there and figuring out how to make this happen.
That's amazing. And how many people are working at the moment with you, Devina?
We have about 25 full-time people, and then we have about 5, back-end employees, and then of course when the seasonal pressure hits us, we hire seasonal labor.
Yeah, and of course I imagine that if you hadn't had a homegrown business, then a lot of that employment wouldn't have happened because importing requires very few people, really.
Absolutely, and Helen, I must add that I'm very particular about keeping my people happy, and I have a team of about 5 or 7 people within my larger team that have been with me from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So nice. I really believe that their livelihood depends on me, and I aim to help them and support them as much as I can. Several of them have sort of been promoted, and now one of them, who started as a very junior labor, is leading a department.
Amazing! That's great. And what year did you start?
We started in 2012, so almost 10 years old.
Yeah, I think I've known Devina since 2016.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
long time. Yeah. So at that point of time, yeah.
Work with us, yeah.
At that point of time, I don't think I had ever come across something like this in the Indian market. So that always stayed with me. And I don't think I've still come across anybody doing the work that she's doing.
Mm.
And this is
I think it's
absolutely
the aesthetic. I have a very particular aesthetic, and Shreya will tell you. And even in terms of my branding, and in terms of my social media that I put forth, I have a. It takes me a second to say yes and no, because I know exactly what I like. I know exactly what I don't like. Very particular about quality, and then that's all. I mean, you know.
I can vouch for that, definitely. So I've known that trait of Devina. Devina, ever since I've started, I worked with you on this particular brand as well. Something that always caught my attention, I think initially, was the brand name. When we say like Jahann, a lot of people do put so much of focus on the brand name, right? Because that's where the story starts. What was your inspiration behind taking this name?
Le Jahann is multifaceted, like the brand, and Le from French means the, and Jahann from Urdu means the world. So what I sort of mixed was cultures. I mixed ideas. I've traveled to over 30 countries, and every time I travel, I bring back new ideas, new colors, new, thoughts. And that's what I wanted to bring to the brand. And what I wanted to do was bring the world to the brand and make the brand a part of the world. So it was a two-way street.
That's great. Love that.
I can understand that, because when you truly look at Devina's packaging, Helen, the product is been inspired by a journey that she's taken. If there is a mood to it, or an element to it, or a motive to it, and I think that's where she even brings the story element to her brand. Correct me if I'm wrong, Devina.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
So it beautifully, it's a packaging piece, but it's a story packaged in that piece. So I think that's the beauty of the brand.
And it adds to whatever's in the packaging. So we want it to not take away, but complement, so as to say, the product. And even if it's an empty box, it's a great gift.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
So Devina, when we started with this brand of bespoke luxury packaging, how difficult, or I might not say difficult, but how was the process of educating the Indian consumers about an exclusive luxury bespoke packaging? Do you think that was a challenge, or?
It was a big challenge, and I think I started as, like I said, as a first mover, and a product pioneer. And at that time, nobody understood why they should pay a premium price for a wooden box. They couldn't throw it away. They couldn't do anything with it. They didn't know why it's so expensive. Or we'd rather do cardboard, or we'd rather do paper, or we'd rather do plastic. Again, I wanted to make the product the star, and it took a lot of a lot of effort to educate the market when it came to bespoke packaging, because people didn't have an idea of what it was and why they wanted it, and B, they weren't able to justify why it was so expensive. and over the years, I think we've grown from strength to strength, and we've made it something that people understand, people relate to. We do very complex designs sometimes, and even when there are a few players now in the market, when there's a complex design, they call me because it takes a certain level of skill to get a design done, like to make it bespoke, to make an idea come about.
Very interesting. And how long was it, do you think, between when you literally just opened your doors, you established yourself as a company, to when you were first getting your first sales coming through? Was it a few weeks, few months, a year?
So our sales came in fairly soon, maybe within 6 months. But when the sales came about, it wasn't really smooth sailing. It wasn't that the buyer was happy with it. It wasn't that our product was making the justification for the price they were paying.
Yeah.
And they didn't understand that. And so a lot of the time there was a when you go back to get your second order, it's like, we'll think about it, that sort of thing. But I think the idea is to always push through if you're passionate about something.
Yeah, absolutely. And we say there are no fast routes to success, particularly in something like luxury, where there are always going to be cheaper, functional alternatives, but that's not what this is about. And I think what's really interesting about your brand is that it reveals the different definitions of luxury that we talk about now in the luxury shift, because it's not all about very high-end, very expensive jewelry and fashion and so on. It's about something which has the high aesthetic value, the way that it's put together, the craft that's involved in it, the care that's taken, even the rarity value of it. These are all things that really, really matter. And that for me is really important, because luxury now is a definition that individuals bring to it rather than society. And I like that. I think that's something which is more contemporary. And your products are truly beautiful. So well done. You've got a fabulous product and a beautiful brand.
Thank you. And may I add, in this machine world, a handmade product, to compete with a machine-made product, is I think, a part of luxury now.
Absolutely.
In terms of fast fashion and fast products and things like that.
And we shouldn't aim to compete with it. Somebody said to me that the large luxury brands have industrialized luxury because the volumes they need have eliminated any possibility of having any handcrafting. So I don't know why everybody pays such a high price for them now, because they're just expensive fashion, really. When you look at it, it's great to see that return to the essence of luxury through brands like yours.
Absolutely. And of course, like I said before, the livelihood for all these craftsmen, all these people who've learned the trade, who know what it is. They've had generations of sort of experience, and now if you tell them, okay, go push some paper in an office, they don't, you're losing talent.
Yeah, they have to have an outlet for that talent, though, don't they? And that's about raising profiles of what they do and making sure that people respect and value it enough too.
Absolutely.
Great.
Also, it's important that, Devina, that's what Helen and I, we were discussing before the interview, that when we think about Indian luxury, we kind of just restrict ourselves to bridal wear. That's where we stop. But there is just so much more to Indian luxury, and there are different verticals, and we are so diverse within this entire subject of luxury. So it's very important that we keep talking about these different trades as well. So that is how we can expand the market as well and make space for these artisans so they can practice their art.
Yeah, for sure. And so,
Also,
I mean, the other
go
thing
ahead.
that we were looking at, and it's our motto effectively, is sustainable luxury made in India. So I was just wondering about sustainability and how you interpret it for your brand and your products.
In terms of sustainable, I would say we've been sustainable from the start in terms of our product. Once somebody receives it, they can use it. You get a nice pair of earrings in a beautiful box. You put it on your dresser, and you can keep it to hold small items, things like that. So of course, our product can be reused. But over the past a year and a half, we've really been pushing this sustainability topic into our workers, where we do minimal waste, and we've also reduced several steps or products that are really causing a lot of harm to the environment, or we're using less water because in lacquerware you use a lot of water. So we're trying to reduce our wastage more than anything. And I think ultimately, hopefully, we get more raw materials that are fairly more sustainable.
I think that's really interesting because sustainability has many different guises. So what you're doing is taking some of the R's, the reduce, recycle, and so on. And actually what you're doing is you have reuse and you have the reduction in those processes, which is going to have a very beneficial effect on a highly prized but not valued sufficiently commodity of water, really. So,
Exactly. And
it's great.
in terms of when somebody gives you a paper packaging or a cardboard packaging, it doesn't last that long.
No.
Whereas with wood, it stands the test of time more than what paper and cardboard and that kind of thing can do. And honestly, wood is ultimately organic. It will eventually go back into the earth and decay and decompose, whereas a plastic would not.
No. And it's the ultimate in renewable sourcing, I guess.
Exactly.
Just keep growing.
Exactly.
Fabulous.
So, Devina, while we are talking about how the brand has evolved eventually in the years, right, where now people are much more aware about thoughtful gifting or thoughtful packaging. What do you think while creating this brand, you believe that, okay, these are the key essential elements for my brand to become luxury or to state it as a premium product? So what were your 3 top things that you believe that I have to make sure that they are correctly done?
I want to say quality, but I won't, because I know that there are a few more people competing with quality, and that is, I think, design. And also, I want to say functionality at the end of the day does matter.
Okay, that's interesting. Functionality is important now, so that you can most often, Helen, we don't relate luxury to functionality, but it's important that in today's generation we start thinking of the practical use of it as well.
And going back to the sustainability talk, less wastage is something that if you can reuse something for several ideas and things, it's much nicer, I think.
But I think functionality is within luxury. If you look at a high performance car, a Ferrari or Bugatti or what have you, they wouldn't exist if they didn't go. they have to function, they have to do the basics that actually are needed, and then they're expected to go beyond that in terms of the quality and the engineering they have. Shoes can't have heels that fall off, they've still got to function. So I think that functionality almost becomes the table stake for everybody. It's just how well it functions over and above what is otherwise available. And then those other elements you talk about with that design aesthetic and signature and the quality, that's what really then starts to layer on the luxuriousness.
Exactly. And, I'll give you an example in terms of the functionality bit. We made a box that was sort of like a carry box. But once you opened it, it was a pour over for a coffee.
Ah.
And it was a storage as well as a functioning piece for, for your table or for your counter.
Nice. Yeah, great. It's that thinking that makes luxury for me.
Mm-hmm.
Good innovation.
The design, it's important.
Yeah.
Design thinking is becoming crucial.
Mm.
We need to have that element of innovation in luxury, and I feel that itself is one of the key definition of luxury, or that makes it relevant to today's consumer. Devina, on that note, what is the one piece of advice in terms of an entrepreneur who's wanting to get into the luxury industry?
I would say if you're passionate about it, just stick with it, because it's not going to be easy in the beginning. But don't be afraid.
Mm-hmm. Good advice.
It's always the matter of sticking through the bit until you make it. Definitely.
Absolutely, because it's just people tend to give up when things don't happen.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, luxury is an eventual journey.
Mm. It's a marathon, not a sprint,
as we always say.
That was fabulous. Thank you so much, Devina. That's really insightful. And I think, entrepreneurs are like everywhere around India and also the world who look at these videos are going to be inspired by the journey that you've gone through. I too have been to Japan, and I can totally agree with the feelings that you have about the packaging there. It's such a ceremony when they're actually packaging and presenting something to you that it becomes the luxury experience in its own right. It's not just about the product there itself. So I think, what you have there is a really beautiful product. It's hard being the first mover, because sometimes you think, oh, there's a reason no one's done it. Often the reason is no one saw the opportunity, but it's actually making that tough leap, then the educating of the consumer as to why you want this and why you're going to pay for it. That's really hard because you're coming from a ground zero. So, what you've got is an impressive brand. It's beautiful. I like the way you're interpreting sustainability. I think that's really, really interesting, because it has to be relevant to the brand and the products themselves. You can't just do what I think a lot of big luxury brands, and they go off purpose hunting. They'll find the latest PR thing, which really doesn't have much of a relationship to their core product or brand, but they think they ought to do something, and then it's gone and they're on to the next thing. So it's great. This is all part of your DNA. So well done. I think it's fabulous.
Thank you. And I just want to add that, for me, the real passion was luxury, but also manufacturing. I really enjoy manufacturing. I can be on the shop floor for hours and hours, and for me it was a twofold thing, where I build a factory, but I also build a brand. And so I worked extra hard in terms of that aspect.
Yeah. No, well done. It's great, and it's nice to see so many employees that are benefiting from you having made the decisions you've made across your journey. Oh well, I'm sure it will continue to grow.
Thank you so much, and I'm so happy that I could, give my 2 cents
Well, we're
Thank you
delighted.
so much. No, it's always been a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And thank you so much for taking a time out and being part of this.
My pleasure.